Hi. The work I'd like to talk about today is looking at a particular part of an IVF cycle. So when an infertile couple comes through for IVF treatment, we collect the eggs, we collect the sperm, and then we help them fertilise to form embryos. Once we have those embryos, we grow them in the lab for a few days and then transfer one back into the patient's uterus and wait to see if she falls pregnant. The tricky part there is that there's no clear one-size-fits-all answer for how long it's best to grow those embryos for in the lab. So very often what happens is the patients are asked to make a choice. Either grow just to day 2 or 3 and then pop them straight back in, and we can just put one at a time each month, or hold on a couple more days, let us watch them grow a little bit longer and then transfer at day 5. Now usually that decision looks a lot like the scales on the left there. At day 3 we've got lots of nice looking embryos. Getting to day 3 is really not that difficult. Most embryos do it. By day 5 we generally have much less embryos because we've ruled out all the ones that can't make it that far. So we have less transfers, but each one has a much higher chance of causing a pregnancy. Now, either way is perfectly fine. We do the transfer, wait to see if she's pregnant, everyone's happy. Unfortunately, as usual, things don't always go that way, and we sometimes find ourselves in a situation more like the scales on the right. On day 3, everything looks good. Lots of embryos, all doing well. All of a sudden at day 5, we've got nothing. Now there's lots of ways that IVF can fail, and they're all terribly disappointing. But this one's particularly insidious. I know it really well because I've often had to be the jerk that calls these patients and says, "I'm sorry, we've got nothing, the cycle's over." And I can tell you in that case, that disappointment is always overlaid with guilt. This is a decision that they made, so they inevitably end up asking, if we'd transferred it back earlier, might it have survived? And much as we like to say, probably not, we don't think so, we always have to clarify that with, but we can't be sure. So what we did here is we collected samples from those embryos that didn't make it to day 5. We were able to collect 250 of them, and what we did is look at their DNA. Now what we found is that 100%, every single one of those embryos had abnormal DNA that would not have let it cause a pregnancy. Now that hasn't changed the outcome for these patients, they still have nothing. But being able to tell them that that's because of something intrinsic to the embryo, their decision hasn't made a difference. This was going to happen either way. I can't tell you how important that is. So that's why I wanted to present this particular data today. Obviously, we're all working towards cures. We want to fix things, make everything better, and if this leads to that, that's fantastic. But it's also a really nice example of how sometimes just knowing why bad things happen is enough to make a really big difference to our patients. And that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.